Your insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre Lebrun, and Darren Dreger. We know Morgan Rielly is appealing his 5-game suspension. What's the latest on that, Chris? And does that accelerate the Leafs' pursuit of another D-man in the trade market?
Well, it's good news for Morgan Rielly. It's going to be on Friday at noon Eastern time in New York City that he gets a chance to sit down, have this hearing with Gary Bettman. And the reason that is good news is if you look historically, it's taken Bettman 3 days to rule after having such a hearing. And that means if he elects, and it's still an if, to reduce the length of the suspension, there is a chance that Morgan Rielly could get back into the Leafs lineup a little sooner than expected. Meanwhile, the pursuit of a defenseman certainly has been a long one for Leafs general manager Brad Treliving. Chris Tanev likely still remains the #1 target for the Leafs, but there's a whole bunch of others that we can at least link the Leafs to in terms of inquiring about availability. They include Sean Walker and Alexander Carrier, both pending UFAs like Tanev. And really, I think the biggest impediment so far to the Leafs making that deal, they don't want to move their first rounder still. They don't have second rounders in the next 3 drafts, and so they've tried to go with volume, offering multiple lower round draft picks, and so far the teams involved in those discussions have no interest in doing that.
Major news out of Columbus, Jarmo Kekalainen is out. So what are the possibilities, names, and who could be a replacement there, Drakes?
Well, there's some interesting names, but what I can tell you is there's going to be no shortage of candidates' names that are rolled out in the days ahead. John Davidson, who's in charge of the search, says that search will begin outside the organization. Some around the NHL wondering if Rick Nash might get a job promotion. Maybe not as general manager, but what about the president's role if John Davidson decides that he wants to move into an advisory capacity? And I believe that the Columbus Blue Jackets will at least ask permission of the Montreal Canadiens to speak with their executive vice president in Jeff Gorton. And it's only to ask for permission. They would love the experience of Jeff Gorton, and there's clear history between Davidson and Gorton dating back to their days with the Rangers.
Fascinating. The goalie market is always fascinating around Trade Center, and this year no exception. Let's start with Jacob Markstrom. Pierre, the Devils made an attempt already with Calgary. It didn't work, but not giving up?
No, so what we understand here, James, is that the Devils are still interested in trying to make a trade work with Calgary for Jacob Markstrom. It doesn't mean that they'll be able to do it, but what we heard today is that they will continue in their efforts with the Flames to find a way. And again, part of the reason those talks broke down is that one, New Jersey wants Calgary to retain some of that salary on 2.5 years of a contract for Markstrom. And if Calgary does that, what is the asset that comes Calgary's way? And so there was some disagreement on all that. But again, the Devils still hoping to find a way. In the meantime, they've kicked tires on the like of UC Saros, on the like of John Gibson, on the likes of Jake Allen. The Devils want a goalie. Now, having said all that, we mentioned Saros. I mean, to me, he'd be the #1 guy on the market. And, the Predators have put him out there, as we discussed last month. But they're not committed to trading him. That's because they're asking a lot for him. They want a good young NHL player as part of any package, and I'm told that really no one has jumped up and made Nashville blink, which is fine because the Predators are happy to keep him.
And then you have a future Hall of Famer in Marc-Andre Fleury out there. How does he fit into all of this?
Yeah, so what we're hearing is that Marc-Andre Fleury had a 4-hour meeting with his agent, Alan Walsh, this week, where they went over March 8th and what could happen. Number one is this: Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't want to go anywhere right now. He believes in the playoff chances of the Minnesota Wild, who, by the way, are on a bit of a run. And so he does not want to bail on the Wild if they're still in the race. But as they get closer to March 8th, if Minnesota does fall out of it, and it's clear that they're out of it, Fleury potentially could look at 2 or 3 teams. And among those options, I'm told, are the likes of Carolina, or likes of Toronto, and the likes of Colorado, which are maybe obvious. But again, Fleury right now wants to stay loyal to the Wild if they can stay in the race.
Major changes in the NCAA of late, where we're seeing athletes who are able to actually earn money. Has this led to the speculation about CHL players, Dregs, being able to play in the NCAA once they're done?
It has, and that's a perfect way to describe it. It has fueled that level of speculation, but the truth is there is nothing new, and that speculation has always been out there. The concern is that families who have young men playing in the Canadian Hockey League, the major leagues, are now calling the NCAA and wondering when they file the paperwork. Or you have kids who are ready to sign with the CHL teams wondering, well, should I sign? And then the door is wide open to the NCAA. No rules have changed, and I don't expect change in the near future.
Appreciate the update. Insider trading.